What turns an ordinary death into a legend? Not every legend dies with sword in hand. Some meet their end in the chaos of battle, while others slip away quietly, leaving behind questions about what it means to be heroic. One refused to surrender under a mountain of spears. Another vanished from radar in a storm of gunfire. Yet, among these stories, you'll find a warrior whose quiet passing stands in stark contrast to the violence surrounding him. Each of these men faced their final moments with a kind of resolve that endures long after the dust has settled. Their choices, whether to stand, to fight, or simply to endure, became the foundation for legends that still echo today. Let's begin with a king who faced the impossible, standing shoulder to shoulder with his men as fate closed in. For 1. Leonidas at Thermopylae, defiance against the impossible. At Thermopylae, the morning air was cold, and the clatter of bronze shields echoed through the narrow pass as 300 Spartans took their positions. Leonidas, the warrior king of Sparta, stood at the center of one of history's most famous last stands. In 480 BCE, as the Persian invasion swept into Greece, Leonidas and his small force faced an army estimated at 100,000 or more under King Xerxes. The rocky pass at Thermopylae offered the only hope of holding back the vast Persian host, giving the Greeks a fighting chance, if only for a short time. Leonidas and his men were not just outnumbered. They faced odds that most would call impossible. Their goal was never outright victory. Instead, they aimed to delay the Persians, buying precious time for the rest of Greece to organize its defenses. For 2 days, the Spartans and their allies formed a wall of shields and spears, repelling wave after wave of attackers. Each charge left the ground littered with Persian casualties, proof that discipline and unity could blunt even the greatest force. The turning point came with the betrayal of Ephialtes, a local who revealed a hidden mountain path to the Persians. Surrounded on all sides, Leonidas and his men faced the reality of their final day. As the sun rose, they prepared for their last stand. Xerxes demanded their surrender, but the Spartans answered with the now famous words, "Molon labe," come and take them. For them, there was no choice between life and death, only between surrender and resistance. The final hours were desperate. With spears broken and swords lost, the Spartans fought with their bare hands, refusing to yield. Leonidas fell among his men, but it was not just his death that left a mark. Their refusal to surrender turned Thermopylae into history's enduring symbol of resistance, a story retold for centuries as proof that courage can outlast defeat. As the dust settled on the battlefield, the world saw how the fate of a single leader could shape the course of history. But sometimes, a leader's end is decided not on the ground, but far above it, where strategy and technology determine who survives. Number 2. Admiral Yamamoto, a strategist struck from the skies. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto was the architect of Japan's strike on Pearl Harbor, the attack that drew the United States into World War II. As the mastermind behind Japan's naval strategy, he was a figure both respected and feared. Yet, it was Yamamoto's strict adherence to routine that ultimately exposed him to danger, a vulnerability his enemies would not ignore. In the spring of 1943, American codebreakers intercepted a classified Japanese message. The decoded text revealed Yamamoto's detailed inspection tour across the Solomon Islands, including his exact route and schedule. This intelligence offered the Americans a rare chance, not just to disrupt enemy plans, but to eliminate the strategist at the heart of Japan's Pacific campaign. The resulting mission, named Operation Vengeance, was set into motion almost immediately. Yamamoto's itinerary left him exposed. His predictable timetable made it possible for the Americans to prepare a precise interception. A squadron of P-38 Lightning fighters was assigned the task. These aircraft, with their distinctive twin V-12 engines, launched from Guadalcanal and flew a carefully calculated route to reach the target on time. The pilots maintained radio silence, flying low to avoid detection, and relied on navigation and timing to execute the mission. As Yamamoto's transport plane, escorted by several fighters, approached the designated area, the American squadron spotted their targets. Lieutenant Rex Barber and his flight leader made a split-second decision to break formation and close in. In the brief engagement that followed, the P-38s opened fire. Yamamoto's aircraft was struck, losing control and crashing into the jungle below. The mission ended quickly, leaving the man who had orchestrated Pearl Harbor dead at the scene. News of Yamamoto's death reverberated through both militaries. For the United States, it was a calculated blow to Japanese morale and command structure. For Japan, it was a stark reminder that even their most revered leaders could be reached. Yamamoto had warned his superiors about the risks of underestimating the enemy. His end underscored the cost of predictability and the relentless nature of modern warfare. Yet, not every brush with death leads to a final chapter. Some legends emerge not from their demise, but from the moments when fate seems certain, only to be defied. Number 3. Simo Heiha, the White Death's brush with mortality. Simo Heiha, known as the White Death, faced mortality on a battlefield where he had become a living legend. A Finnish farmer before the war, Heiha transformed into one of history's most effective snipers during the Winter War of 1939 to 1940, when the Soviet Union invaded Finland. Working alone in freezing forests where temperatures dropped to -40 degrees Fahrenheit, he stalked the Red Army with patience and precision. Over just a few months, he was credited with over 500 confirmed kills, a number that spread fear among Soviet ranks and made him a prime target. Heiha's reputation grew not from spectacle, but from his mastery of the basics. He wore white winter camouflage to blend into the snow and refused to use a telescopic sight, knowing that a glint of sunlight could betray his position. Instead, he relied on his iron-sighted rifle and deep familiarity with the landscape. Soviet soldiers viewed him as a near-mythical threat, and their command sent special teams, counter-snipers, and even artillery barrages in hopes of ending his campaign. On March 6, 1940, Heiha's luck ran out. While fighting in the woods, he was struck in the left jaw by an explosive round fired by a Soviet soldier. The wound shattered his face and left him unconscious in the snow. His comrades assumed he would not survive, and for days he hovered between life and death. Yet Heiha's story did not end on the battlefield. Over a week after the injury, he regained consciousness in a Finnish field hospital. By then, Finland had agreed to an armistice with the Soviet Union on March 13, 1940, bringing the Winter War to a close. His survival was seen as remarkable, and his scars became part of his legend. To the Finnish people, he represented not just deadly skill, but also the endurance and resilience of a nation under siege. Heiha lived for decades after the war, quietly tending to his farm and rarely speaking of his experiences. His legacy challenges the idea that a legendary life must end in violence. Sometimes, survival itself becomes the most enduring mark of a warrior. But what happens when a soldier's greatest battle isn't fought on the field at all, but in the quiet years that follow? Number 4. General Zieten, the warrior who defied a hero's death. General Hans Joachim von Zieten's story stands apart from the battlefield legends who met violent ends. As a Prussian cavalry commander born in 1699, Zieten rose through the ranks during the reign of Frederick the Great, earning a reputation for daring tactics and leadership in the Silesian Wars and the 7 Years' War. He was promoted to general of the cavalry in 1758, a testament to his skill and reliability. Unlike so many commanders whose careers ended on the battlefields of the 20th century, Zieten outlived his swords by decades, continuing to serve at the request of Frederick himself, who valued his counsel at court long after the wars had ended. Zieten's survival was not the result of avoiding danger. He led charges, broke enemy lines, and inspired his troops from the front. The 18th century was unforgiving for military leaders, especially those in the cavalry, who often died violently or suffered capture. Many of Zieten's contemporaries fell in combat, their stories ending abruptly amid the chaos of war. Zieten, however, combined discipline and ingenuity to navigate both the perils of battle and the challenges that followed. His ability to adapt and endure allowed him to retire with his health and reputation intact, a rare achievement in his era. He died peacefully in 1786 at the age of 87, a full generation after his last campaign. Frederick the Great called him irreplaceable, and Zieten's later years were marked by honor and respect rather than the violence that claimed so many of his peers. Statues and memorials across Prussia commemorate not just his battlefield exploits, but also his wisdom and stability. Zieten's legacy is one of resilience and longevity, showing that a warrior's influence can extend far beyond the years of active combat. His story challenges the idea that a legendary death must be dramatic or violent. Sometimes, a life lived with purpose and endurance leaves the deepest mark. As we consider these different forms of legacy, we see that the meaning of duty can shift depending on the moment. And sometimes, it is the act of staying when all hope is lost that defines a legend. Number 5. The Roman soldier at Pompeii, duty in the face of disaster. As Mount Vesuvius tore Pompeii apart, one soldier never flinched from his duty. In the ruins of the city, buried beneath layers of ash, archaeologists discovered the remains of a Roman soldier standing upright, weapon in hand. He had not fled as the eruption overwhelmed Pompeii in 79 CE. While panic and chaos swept through the streets, this lone sentinel held his post. His name lost to history, but his final act preserved in the position he kept as disaster closed in. The eruption transformed a peaceful coastal city into a scene of terror. Vesuvius erupted with a roar, hurling molten rock and choking ash high into the air. People ran through collapsing streets, clutching what they could, desperate to escape falling debris and suffocating fumes. Ash blotted out the sun, turning day to night in moments. For most, survival became the only thought, and the city's population scattered in every direction. Yet, amid the confusion, the soldier remained where he had been stationed. His choice reflected the Roman principle of pietas, a deep sense of duty to one's position, family, and gods. Soldiers in the Roman army trained to value discipline above their own lives, swearing oaths to serve Rome no matter the cost. Abandoning one's post was considered shameful, and for this soldier, the orders he received outweighed the instinct to flee, even as the city was consumed by fire and ash. And even as it became clear that escape was impossible, he did not leave. He stood not for recognition or reward, but because duty demanded it, a code stronger than fear and more enduring than the disaster itself. When the eruption finally buried Pompeii, thousands died, their last moments preserved in the hardened ash. The soldier's remains, still clad in armor among the ruins, offer a silent testament to unwavering resolve. He did not seek heroism, yet his decision has outlasted the city he tried to protect. In the centuries since, his story has become a symbol of devotion that endures beyond catastrophe. Stories like his remind us that the way someone faces their end can reveal as much about heroism as any victory or defeat. History remembers more than just the way a life ends. It remembers what those endings mean. From Thermopylae's defiance to Pompeii's solemn vigil, these moments prove that legends live on in meaning, not just in drama. Each story we explored shows how choices made in the final moments can echo far beyond the battlefield or disaster. Which of these stories stands out to you the most? Let us know who you will remember and why their final moments moved you. Hit like if Leonidas's defiance inspired you, and subscribe for more untold tales of courage.